couple of months ago, my friend's cousin, a single mother, bought a new cell phone. After a long day of work, she came home and placed the phone on the counter and then went and watched TV. Her son came to her and asked if he could play on a new phone, and she said, yeah, as long as you don't call anyone or mess with my texts, and he agreed. At about 11:20, she felt a bit drowsy, so she decided to get her son into bed, and then she went up to her own bed. She walked into her room, and she saw that he wasn't there. And then she ran over to her room and found him sleeping on a bed with the phone in his hand. Relieved, she picked up her phone and inspected it, making sure that he hadn't been on it. She noticed that there was minor changes, such as a new background and a new banner. And then she also noticed on the camera app that there were some new pictures. She opened up her saved pictures and she began deleting all the pictures he'd taken, until just one picture remained. At first, when she saw it, she was in disbelief. It was her son sleeping on a bed, but the picture was taken by somebody else, and it also showed the left half of an old woman's face. Nothing ever came from that, but she's always really, really protective of her son now. My older sister has a ghost that's followed her around for years. I lived with her for about 3 months at one time, and there was so much weird stuff happening. All my sister would say to me when I mentioned it is that the ghost didn't like me being there. Things just like when you go to bed and everything's locked up and turned off, and then you wake up in the morning with the back door open, the lights on, the kettle switched on. One night, my sister and I were getting ready to go out, and I asked to borrow her liquid foundation. I used it and I put it back where she kept it. 10 minutes later, she's asking me for it and it was nowhere to be seen. She accused me of taking it and made me buy a new one, and then refused to listen to my side of the story, like I'd stolen it or something. About a year later, when she was packing up to move to a new house, she found the makeup in a shoebox with some old letters. The shoebox was zipped up in a suitcase that was underneath her bed. She blamed me for that and she thought I was just pulling a prank on her. The thing is, I really wasn't. Probably the most scared I ever felt was one afternoon when I was the only one in the house, which never happened because there's 4 other people that live there. I arrived home from work and I headed straight to the bathroom. All the doors and the windows were closed. I was standing in the bathroom and I was squeezing this massive pimple on my chin when a female voice in the hall said, "Stop picking your zits." It was loud enough that it sounded so real, and at the time I thought it was my sister. So I started laughing and I told her to shut up, and I asked what she was doing for dinner. No answer. I stuck my head out of the hall and no one was there. I went around the house and no one was in. I sat on the front porch until someone else got home because I didn't want to be in there alone. I was living in a house on Laguna Beach that had been there since the 1920s. In its history, it had been a speakeasy, a brothel, and a house for smuggling immigrants. One day, my new husband and I were having an argument. I can't even recall what it was about, it was probably something stupid. He walked down the block to get a cup of coffee and cool off, and I was alone in the house. The way that the place was built was incredibly haphazard. There was a bedroom and a living room on one side, and then a bathroom with 2 entrances. On the other side of the bathroom was a hallway that had windows on one side and 2 bedrooms on the other. From our bedroom, I could look across a hall, into the bathroom, and then through the bathroom and down to the other hall. I was standing at my dresser and I noticed some movement out the corner of my eye, and I looked down, and there it was. Honest to God, 17 years later, this still gives me goosebumps when I talk about it. It was a black figure. It was maybe like 3 feet tall and it was vaguely humanoid. It looked like black scribbles, like someone had scribbled a human shape, but the scribbles moved like electricity. And that's the only way I can explain it. It's just so weird. There was no sound that I could remember. I just remember when I looked at it, I was just like, what the hell is that? And then I noticed it was looking at me. I can't say it turned around, it just like focused on me, I guess. And then I was scared. I didn't move, I didn't scream, nothing. I was just like frozen. And then it just came at me. It rushed down the hall towards me. I have no idea what it intended, but as soon as it entered the bathroom, the door closest to me just slammed shut. Honest to God, I screamed and I yelled for my husband. He wasn't home, and I went outside into daylight, and I just didn't go back in until he got home around 10 minutes later. I don't believe in ghosts, and I don't believe I saw something supernatural, but I don't know what I saw, and I don't know what it was. My house was built in 1904. It's a single family home, wood frame setting on a concrete block foundation, and I've been living here for about 12 years. Out of all of the weird things me and my siblings have seen, this one incident is my favourite. This happened to my brother. It was about 10 years ago, and my brother tells his best friends he started a garage band playing mostly Spanish rock, alternative music but in Spanish. His friends could only get together on Sunday afternoons and they would practice into the early evening. They would eventually call it quits by about 8 p.m. This was the time that I usually showed up and I went to bed because I worked a graveyard shift. This happened about late fall, so the days were getting shorter. They had just finished a long session when the decision to head to someone else's house came about. My brother handed his car keys to his buddy so they could load up the equipment. Everyone filed out of the basement, but the tricky part was that they needed to walk all the way back into the basement, up the stairs, through the kitchen, down the hall, and then out of the front porch. Everyone was sitting outside in my brother's truck waiting for him. My brother was walking back up the stairs when he remembered that he left his pancakes in a to-go box sitting on a speaker in the basement. Now the basement is not clean with full sight lines. There had been partitions made and the boiler in the main heating unit smack right in the middle. So after my brother walks in, he's about to retrieve his food container when out of the corner of his eye he sees it. It's a shadowy figure right at the peripheral of his vision, and this feeling of dread and uneasiness washed over him. We've been taught that if you're in the presence of a spirit or a ghost and you felt a bad vibe, to quickly say a prayer or to cuss at it. My brother chose the latter. He basically just told it to go away. I don't have time for this. My brother started to walk out the basement and up the stairs, closing the doors and turning off the lights as he walked out. The last light switch is on the opposite side of the front door. Luckily the door was open and the light from the street lamp was flooding into the living room with its amber light. My brother said he felt something at his back, but not one point did he turn around. As he flicked the last switch, the living room went dark and the rest of the house did. As he stepped out, he pulled the door closing behind him. Still holding his food container in one hand, he jogged down the few porch steps. He walked towards the front gate. Our house resides far from the main street, essentially having a large front yard but no rear garage. As he closed the gap between himself and his friend lad and truck, he kind of smiled and thought things over in his head, mad at himself for spooking when there was no reason to. He climbed into the driver's side of the truck, putting on his seatbelt and getting ready to pull out of the parking spot directly in front of the house, when one of his friends said, "Hey Walt, what about your brother? Isn't he coming with us?" My brother answered, "What do you mean? He went to work early tonight. He's already gone. Do you even see his car anywhere?" The next question is, so then, who was that walking behind you when you were leaving the house? So guys, I really hope you did enjoy these ghost stories. If you did, do make sure to subscribe to Darkest Night, leave a like on this video, and we will spook you guys in the next one.